the story of division and freedom in South Africa. In the heart of Southern Africa lies a nation whose past was once divided by walls of race, fear, and injustice. This is the story of apartheid, the system that tried to separate people by the color of their skin, and the struggle of millions who rose to bring freedom, unity, and hope to their land. Welcome to History and Event Screen TV. And today, we uncover the story of apartheid in South Africa, the roots of division. The seeds of apartheid were planted long before it had a name. In the 1600s, Dutch settlers arrived at the Cape of Good Hope. They called themselves Afrikaners, or Boers. Over time, Britain took control, and South Africa became a land ruled by European powers. While white settlers gained wealth and land, black South Africans were pushed off their ancestral homes and forced to work in mines and farms for little pay. By the early 1900s, South Africa was already deeply divided by racial division built into its laws and its economy. In 1910, the Union of South Africa was formed, uniting the colonies but not the people. Black South Africans, who were majority, were denied the right to vote and to own land freely. This was the foundation for what would later become apartheid. After World War II, in 1948, the National Party came to power and they had one goal: to make racial segregation the law of the land. They called it apartheid, an Afrikaans word meaning apartness. Under apartheid, every South African was classified by race: white, black, colored, or Indian. Your race determined where you could live, where you could work, which schools you could attend, and even whom you could marry. Black South Africans were forced to carry passbooks, showing where they were allowed to go. Families were torn apart, homes destroyed, communities relocated. The land became a map of separation: white cities, surrounded by black townships. But oppression breeds resistance. In 1912, even before apartheid officially began, a movement was born, the African National Congress, or ANC. Its mission: to fight for the rights and dignity of all South Africans. By the 1950s, resistance was growing stronger. Leaders like Nelson Mandela, Walter Sisulu, and Oliver Tambo organized protests, strikes, and campaigns of defiance. In 1955, the Freedom Charter was signed declaring that South Africa belongs to all who live in it, black and white. The government responded with violence and arrests. In 1960, the Sharperville massacre shocked the world when police opened fire on peaceful protesters, killing 69 people. From that moment, peaceful protests gave way to armed struggle. Nelson Mandela, once a young lawyer, became the face of the struggle. In 1961, he co-founded Umkhonto we Sizwe to spear the nation, the armed wing of the ANC. But in 1962, he was arrested and later sentenced to life imprisonment. For 27 years, Mandela lived behind bars, much of it on Robben Island, where he was forced to break stones under the hot. Yet even in prison, his spirit could not be broken. His message of peace and unity inspired millions both inside South Africa and around the world. The cry of "Free Nelson Mandela" echoed across continents. The fall of apartheid, footage of protests in the 1980s, world leaders calling for sanctions. Narrator: by the 1980s, the world could no longer ignore apartheid. Nations imposed sanctions, musicians and athletes boycotted South Africa, and ordinary people protested in every corner of the globe. Inside the country, resistance grew stronger. Townships erupted in defiance, and young South Africans risked everything for freedom. In 1990, after decades of struggle, the unthinkable happened. Nelson Mandela was released. For years later, in 1994, South Africa held its first democratic election, and Mandela became the nation's first black president. Apartheid had fallen, but its scars remained. The story of apartheid is not only a story of injustice, it's a story of courage, unity, and the power of forgiveness. Nelson Mandela once said, "No one is born hating another person because of the color of his skin. People must learn to hate, and if they can learn to hate, they can be taught to love." South Africa today still walks the road toward equality, but its people have shown the world that even the deepest wounds can heal. Follow for more educational and historical events. As the dawn of freedom rose over South Africa, the cries of injustice slowly turned into songs of hope, and a new generation stepped into a world rebuilt on equality and courage. But what do we take away from this story? What does history like this truly teach us? History isn't just a record of what happened, it's a mirror of who we are. It reminds us of the cost of division, the pain of silence, and the power of unity. For young adults and children born today, history is one of the greatest teachers they will ever have. It teaches us to think critically, to question, to analyze, and to see the world beyond headlines. It teaches empathy, helping us understand people who lived in different times, faced different struggles, yet share the same dreams of freedom and peace. History gives us identity and direction. It tells us where we come from and guides us toward where we are going. Through it, we see that progress doesn't come easily. It comes from courage, resilience, and the willingness to stand up for what's right. Every event like the end of apartheid reminds us that change begins with awareness, and awareness begins with learning. When we study the past, we don't just remember, we grow. We make sure the mistakes of yesterday never become the headlines of tomorrow. So as you reflect on this story, remember, history is not behind us, it lives within us. It's our story, your story, and the story of the world we continue to build together.